made contact and shattered.
At some point, Chris locates what's called a dry bag.
Brian Laundrie's body has been found. Law enforcement had considered Laundrie the only person of interest in the murder of his fiancée, Gabby Petito.
That's all it is the truth. So there's nothing to hide in that coroner's report. There's nothing to hide by not having Kiely take a polygraph. And if the truth comes out, and this was
reference to a missing 4-year-old, the parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Hello?
It's gone.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning for another ATS News live stream. We are covering the Kiely Rodni case, and we have a lot to discuss. I've been kind of watching everything going on and, taking it all in, taking my own notes, of course. And I guess we're just going to discuss some topics today that will kind of narrow down like the probability of certain things happening, or maybe not even narrow it down, but let's just lay out some logic and, just discuss some stuff. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. Hi, Melmac, Rebecca, Nikki Rex, Florida. Good morning. Twisted Gemini, Melmac. Thank you guys for being here. Karen, anyone else who I didn't say, I see you X amount of words. Thank you for being here, guys. Hi, Kay Danielle. So pretty much California Highway Patrol is conducting the investigation from this point on. They're treating this as a vehicle accident, and they're using a special task force to pretty much indicate what exactly happened or the closest scenario of what might have happened that night. The FBI is supplementing some resources so they can use it. The crime lab from FBI was at the scene. I'm assuming any advanced stuff that they need, like maybe stuff for the cell phone forensics, all that, maybe FBI is helping them out. The reason why we haven't seen that one woman in Prosser County is because that county is where Kiely's mother called in the missing person report. So their case was to find Kiely. They've completed that case. She was found sadly not alive, but their case is closed. So that's why we haven't seen that woman, and we haven't seen some of the Prosser County officers. So I guess I have up on the screen some stuff that I just, it's kind of going to cover some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. And we're just going to break it down even more and get even more detail. But the gist of it is I'm sure everyone has realized at this point, the science is going to tell the story, and we have to wait on that. That includes the autopsy. They'll be checking water in the lungs, probably one of the first things they'll do if they haven't already, which I'm sure they have. The car black box, we want to know everything that happened in that vehicle leading up to the accident, which will be recorded on that black box. The main thing, that everyone wants to know, was it in neutral? Was it in drive? Her cell phone. We haven't gotten confirmation that they even found her cell phone. If this was just an accident, she drove into the water, that's what it is, then her cell phone obviously is going to be in the car, right? They'll be checking for the physical phone. They'll be checking the pings of the phone. They're going to be checking. What do you guys think? I'll need your guys' feedback. Are they going to get a hold of the friends and say, do you mind if we check, your phone locations? And do you mind if we just, or do they not treat it that way? Like, are they going to narrow down the aspect, like, was she alone? Because I feel like we're all, and we were kind of thinking this way in the beginning, it's very likely that she did drive into the water. It seemed almost like strange that Sammy, her quote friend was saying that she had thought she was abducted, because I was just thinking, why would that be the first scenario that you would go to? You know, it's the place is surrounded by water. There's no guardrails. We've seen the footage, which we'll go through too. The night footage is completely black. I want to play that and watch that with you guys, because I haven't watched that all the way through, the one with the woman narrating. So we're going to go through that with you guys today. Just, we're just going to discuss the forensics, just stuff like that, which is going to make a huge deal, because this could very well be deemed as an accident, but we just don't know just yet. So let's just go through some things that they'll be able to do, which can narrow down if she was by herself or whatever. And before I get even into this clip, which everyone knows, I love Duty Ron, I love Ed Wallace, I love their opinions. Them being retired law enforcement definitely gives me faith in their opinion, and I feel comfortable sharing this source with you guys. But before I get started here, how many of you guys think that this was just, she was by herself, she drove into the water herself, nobody was with her, nobody left the vehicle and left her in it, and it's just her, and it's just a sad tragedy? Or who thinks that, it's very possible that her friend could have been driving, her friend might have been able to get out, and to save her own butt, maybe the friend ditched the scene. So Linda says, I think it was just a tragic accident. Rebecca doesn't think she was intoxicated. We've got someone saying foul play. While you guys answer, I just wanted to give my opinion. I mean, it just looks so cut dry that it would be an accident, but at the same time, I just can't get over certain things that the friend had said. I want it narrowed down that Kiely was by herself. Like, I want to make sure that none of the friends' phones are pinging at the same time and place that Kylie's was. I would just really I'd feel better if we could get some of that information, or if they're looking into that, even better. Let me see. I think it was a tragic accident too. Creme brulee is code for drug, I've heard too. Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, I can't believe there's no warning signs out there. Yeah, there was Ed Wallace was pretty much saying, like, it's just unfortunate that this land is federally owned and it's not, taken care of in a way that it should be. It's got the resources to be a safer area, and it just looks like it's come and do whatever you want anytime. There's no fencing, or even those fences that are like wooden or whatever that can like swing open and then you just close it. And some of them have like a padlock. Like, I've seen state parks in New York have stuff like that, like they'll have a trail, but when it's hunting season or whatever, they like close it and you're just not supposed to go back there. But so we're just going to go through this. They're speaking about, can you get fingerprints on a wet car? So we're going to start here, and then I'm kind of winging it with you guys. And yes, the toxicology will be key. The thing I have, or the problem I have with the toxicology is, like, what if she was drunk or under the influence, but she didn't drive? You know what I mean? Like, they're going to find out through the toxicology that she does have some stuff in her system. But what if it, she was in the back seat, or she was in the passenger seat and somebody else was driving? Like, it could very well come back that she has alcohol in her system or whatever. And people might just say, okay, we're going to write this off as like she was driving and this and that. I just don't know. I got a lot of questions. So let me just start here, and we'll start talking about the car black box and all that too. Okay. So they're answering a question about if you can get wet fingerprints. Hi, Delaney. So good to see you. And hi, E. Caroline. Good to see you. And yeah, I agree. The water in the lungs will be the biggest clue. It'll be the biggest indicator of, was she there? Was she alive before she went in the water or not? But she could have been alive and gone in the water, and it could still be somebody else was driving. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I don't understand as far as how can we narrow down if it was an accident or not. If just because toxicology comes back, does that narrow down the scenario that somebody else was there? You know what I mean? So
people were asking about, can you get fingerprints?
so for those who don't know, Ed is in Iraq right now taking care of a military project and mission, so his Wi-Fi was cutting out, but he's pretty much saying people were asking if you can get fingerprints off of a wet vehicle after the vehicle's been wet.
Vehicle was wet, and the answer is yes. I've done numerous experiments with this where I placed fingerprints on windshields and car surfaces and then blasted it with a hose, even a power washer, in its normal use. I'm saying in its normal power washer use. I didn't just go up to the window and stick the nozzle of the power washer up right against the fingerprint, but it stays there. In fact, we have a fingerprint processing material called small particle reagents, which is an aqueous solution of water, soap, and fingerprint powder suspended in the liquid, and it's used when the surface is wet. And you spray this liquid onto the surface, and it runs over the fingerprints, and the material adheres to the sebaceous oils of the fingerprints and develops them. So yes, it can still be there.
All right.
So this is the inside of a 2013 Honda CRV. So now we found out that you can pull fingerprints off of a wet vehicle using that small particle reagent, I think it's called, technique that Ed was just talking about. And it pretty much is a technique that the purpose of it is to develop latent fingerprints on wet, non-porous surfaces, including glass, plastic, metals, and adhesive sides of tape. The method is based on an adherence of fine particles of treating solution to the oily or fatty components of latent finger marks and the residue from them. So it's just absolutely amazing that the oils in our skin will outlast, the lake, whatever was going on in the lake, and the deterioration of anything on the vehicle from being submerged. So I want to look at this picture, and I want to, just point out the areas that if somebody else was driving, where would their finger marks or fingerprints be? We heard Sammy say that she got a ride home from somebody else, and she said that she was in the passenger seat of that car. We don't know who this other ride is. She never name drops anybody. I'm sure law enforcement has ironed out those details. I'm very curious. Everyone's very curious who gave Sammy a ride home. Hi, Roxanne. Good to see you, and everyone else joining. Hi, Peach. And thank you, Peach, for sending me all this stuff in emails. I went through last night and read some of them and added some of the visuals here too. So thank you so much for sending me stuff. So, obviously the gear shift would have somebody's fingerprint on it, the steering wheel would, the door, all that would be checked and checked if, maybe it wasn't just Kiely's fingerprints. What do you guys think? I want to play actually a video to show you the process that law enforcement uses to get the fingerprints off of a wet vehicle or a wet surface. So let me just share my screen and I'll pull that up. The other thing I want to read too is something that the private investigator, and we talked a lot about him on my last live stream. He was not hired by the family, but he ended up getting to know the family. And on his Twitter the other day, he wrote, "I confirmed that Kiely was familiar with Prosser. It was not her first party there. She was also very experienced driving back roads and off-road. She has been driving Coldstream and the train tunnels before she got her license. It's a private gated road. She also snowmobiles. So I think he just wants to kind of let everybody know that that wasn't her first time there. But, you know, that really doesn't mean that she couldn't have drove into the water, you know, especially after we look at the water
But you know,
at
that
night.
really doesn't mean that she couldn't have drove into the water.
Sorry. Okay. Okay, I thought this was interesting, and I hope you guys find it interesting too. But, you know, pretty much after the vehicle was pulled out of the lake, I want to get this full screen. Okay. So, anyways, after the water was pulled out of the lake, you know, they bring it to the forensics garage. They dry out the vehicle. They check, you know, why did the airbags not go off, or why did they go off, which we know they didn't. And let's just see this little process, guys.
Hi, welcome back to Forensic Education Series. I'm Mike McCutcheon. Today we're going to use a small particle reagent. We're going to use a product called wet print. The small particle reagent is going to allow us to develop fingerprints on wet surfaces. This is fantastic if you're on a scene and you have a product that is submerged in water, or a stolen car that's out in the rain, or even today we're going to use a window, and you can pretend that this window was outside and it's raining outside and you still wanted to develop your fingerprints. Not only are we going to develop fingerprints that are wet, we're going to lift fingerprints that are wet. There's no need to wait for them to dry, and I'm going to show you a technique to do that. So what I have set up today is I have a window that may have some fingerprints on it. We're going to use our wet print to try to develop the prints. Then we're going to use our tape to lift the prints. I also have set up some cups that have been submerged in water, and we're also going to try to develop them with the wet print. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is put on gloves. You wouldn't want to use this stuff inside because it's very messy. Okay, so I have my gloves on. I'm ready to start processing. Now you can use the wet print on dry objects as well. If you have already superglue fumed an object and then you used a dye stain and you didn't get fingerprints, you can then try to use the wet print. But today we're going to focus on fingerprints as if they were outside and they're wet. So you're going to find the bottle that has the 1 on it. And you need to make sure that you shake it, because the particles that are in the wet print are heavier than the liquid. So you have to make sure that you're shaking it throughout. So we're going to start at the top. Now it's important that you start at the top and you let it go down into the fingerprint, because you don't want to spray this into your fingerprints because it may disturb your prints. Well, look at those beauties. They're already coming up fantastic. So I'm going to give that a few minutes to come down into our fingerprints as they develop. Then we're going to take the number 2 bottle. This is just filled with water. We're going to spray that to clean up our fingerprints. Again, it's going to be very important to start at the top and let it flow down. You don't want to spray it into your fingerprints. You're going to disturb those fingerprint ridges. Now we can see here, we have beautiful fingerprint ridges on all of these fingerprints. Now, normally people would say you have to wait and let these dry before you can lift them. That's not the case. So what I did today is I have some tape that I had already measured, just so that we can get going on our lifts. So what we're going to do is take the tape. You're going to put it right over your fingerprint. You're going to use a squeegee. Lift your print. going to put this on a white backing. And there we have our fingerprints. Okay, I'm going to lift those other two prints as well with a different tape. I just have a couple different tapes for different thicknesses. So we'll use a thinner tape on this one. It's going to be the same process. You're going to put the tape over your fingerprint. You're going to squeegee it. Lift it. Put it on our white backing card. And again, you have fantastic fingerprint ridges. We didn't let it dry. We were able to lift it without having to let this dry. This would work perfect for evidence if there was a can or something like that that has condensation on it and you wanted to process it right away, you can still process it using the wet print. Now, we're going to come over here to some items that I've had submerged in the water. They're just a couple cups. Okay, so these have been submerged in the water. I'm going to take our wet print, make sure it's the number 1. Now this is going to be a little more difficult to let roll down onto our print just because it's such a small object. I'm going to let that flow down. Then we're going to rinse it with our water. Oh, gorgeous. Look at those prints. Now you can see up here, there's plenty of fingerprint ridges, all on the top of this cup. Now this cup was completely submerged in the water. We'll have this one again. The same process. Start with number 1. I'm going to rinse it. Again, beautiful prints. Now we lifted the prints off the window because it was a nice flat surface and we were able to put the tape on and squeegee it right off and then put it on our backing. For something like this that has a rounded surface, you're not going to be able to use that tape because you won't be able to squeegee it off because it's such a small object. So this you would have to photograph, let dry, photograph, and then lift it a traditional way using a regular tape, a hinge lifter, or something like that. Well, that's it for my demonstration on the small particle reagent. I hope I made the myth that you need to let this stuff dry to develop it, eliminated that, and now you can see that even if there's an object that's in water, you can still get good fingerprint ridges. You can get wet print at linpv.com. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again.
So this was a really interesting channel, actually, that I'd found. It's called Michael McCutcheon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But yeah, he's looks like law enforcement. He's had his channel. I think that video that I just shared was like 7 years old or something, maybe even older. I've watched some of his other stuff too. You know, he shows you how to use luminol. It's just very interesting. So if you guys want to actually head over to his channel and subscribe, I've subscribed, and he's still putting out new stuff. So, I mean, that video was like 7 years old, but interesting. You know what I mean? I didn't see any other video on YouTube that was sharing that process, and Ed Wallace spoke about that process. Obviously, he's done it a couple times, and we'd seen the clip of Ed talking about how he's done experiments with it. And yeah, he had no problem, even after it was power washed, pulling up some prints, you know. So will they do that to Kiely's car? Will they check the inside for people's prints other than her own? You know, that is going to be determined. I'm sure that they're going to dot their I's and cross their T's and figure that out. So back to the gist of the stream too, you know, just to follow up that, the black box in the vehicle, which will have everything that the computer of the car recorded leading up to the accident when it went into the water. The black box will obviously tell us any safety issues it was experiencing, the speed, lane departures, any warnings to the driver of, you know, something up ahead, like maybe their traction control kicked in or, you know, something. All that will be obviously recorded on the black box. And for those who don't know, the black box depicts data such as how fast your car was going, the position of the throttle, brake application, airbag deployments, the seatbelt use. So that is going to be key as well, guys, because the seatbelt, you know, if you don't put your seatbelt on in a Honda, especially the newer ones, like this one definitely still, even though it's 9 years old or whatever, it's still going to have the thing that beeps until you put your seatbelt on. All that's going to be recorded on the black box. Like if it was beeping because no one was putting on their seatbelt, that's going to be an indicator on the black box. It's going to record the steering angles and range of other factors as they were about 20 seconds before the crash. So, you know, during the crash and 20 seconds after the crash, the black box will still record what it can. This crash ended in water. So will the black box show, you know, were the fuses blown because of the water? So it'll indicate, you know, when that happened. It's going to show, you know, what if the high beams were on? Was her high beams on so that she could see down the path better? You know what I mean? Were they not on? Were her, you know, her GPS it's going to record stuff on the GPS. So we're going to find out, you know, were the headlight bulbs blown from hitting the water, or were they just never even on? You know what I mean?
All right, so I am at.
So this is that route that I wanted to watch with you guys. Let me go through some of this other stuff and then I'll press play and we can watch this together. I haven't watched this whole thing together. I've just kind of edited it and skipped through it. So I wanted to do that with you guys. Delaney wants to know, does a black box show a route? So the GPS will show a route, I believe. And yeah, I'm wondering that too, Max 2002. They said, hi, I'm actually questioning why didn't the airbags deploy unless she went in the lake at low speed? And that's like the only thing that I can kind of conclude it to. Like there must not have been much of an impact for the sensors to have been triggered. And hi, Rosie, good morning. I mean, I'm just guessing. Does a black box show? Oh, that's a good question. Does the black box show how many people were inside the car? That's kind of the question I was wondering too, because I don't know if you guys have noticed this, like in cars, but sometimes you get in a car as the driver and, or you maybe even, no. And sometimes on your dash, it'll pop up and it'll be like passenger airbag activated or something to indicate like the passenger airbag was off or on. Have you guys ever seen that in your car or somebody else's car? Before I keep explaining, I just want to know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Like sometimes cars will like flash something and like let you know that like passenger airbag on or something like that. Yes. Okay. So people are knowing what I'm talking about. So that I'm wondering, you know, would the black box, because that goes by weight, you know, they know that something is in the passenger seat, so they're going to turn on the airbag for the passenger seat. Or the car knows that nobody's in the passenger seat and they don't need that sensor to be on. If I'm wrong, you know, car guys or girls, comment down below and you know, correct me. But I'm pretty sure that that kind of goes by whoever is in the weight of the car. For example, in the Watts case, we questioned, was Chris alone in the car? And his car, the truck had that sensor where it could tell if a passenger was in it. It was a work truck, so he wasn't supposed to have other people in the car. So it was kind of like something that we looked into there. So here I'm wondering if maybe the black box will let us know if there was other weight in another seat. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm wondering if that little indicator will show if somebody was in the passenger seat. I'm not 100%, but I'm thinking that maybe that will do that. My newer car now, actually, and this is only on newer cars that I've seen, it when you turn the car off, the dash, like where it shows your speed, it says check the back seat, because it, a lot of people sadly are leaving their children in the car. And now cars know that it has like a weight in the back. So when the car goes off, it's got like a sensor and it's saying, check your back seat. It can tell that there's something back there. So I don't know if the black box will show a passenger, but that's a good question. And that's definitely going to be checked when they do pull the black box, So, all right. So I think we've covered the black box as far as, things that we want to talk about as far as science that we want to go through. So we know that the car is going to be in the forensics garage. We know that they're going to dry it out. We know they can process fingerprints. I'm not saying that they are processing fingerprints, but we know that it's possible. So now let's skip to, should we go through this footage together right now? And then I'll go back to my notes. Yeah, let me just play this footage with you guys. I'll watch it with you guys and we can kind of get an indication of, her drive or whoever's drive that night. And I'm going to leave it open because as much as I feel it's very, very likely she could have drove in the water, I still feel it's very likely somebody else also could have drove in the water and ditched her. People sadly, especially young people, they want to cover their own butts. I think we've already ironed out the fact that none of us really believe that Sammy and Kiely were that close anyways. So what kind of loyalty would a friend have to another friend in a situation like that? That can be up in the air, in my opinion. Good morning, Allison. So glad you made it. So let's just go through this. I'm going to play this. I'm going to watch it with you guys. And again, this is my first time watching the night one all the way through. And then I'll get back to the notes and we can go through more of the science that we'll need for this case.
The spot that they called the sanctuary, where they had a party that night that Kiely Rodni went missing. So many of us were curious on what it might have looked like that night, in the dark, and the road that she would have taken, what it had, what it looked like. So we're gonna drive through here and see. So this is the area, that they were all standing around in, having a party. There's plenty of, space for that many people, if there were 200 to 300, and for, a good amount of cars, could have fit through here. I'm trying to find, so this is the road in front of me, I think.
And again, just to kind of, now that I'm looking at this, we talked about the PI, the Twitter post that he put up the other day. I pulled it up, I don't know, 10 minutes ago. And he's saying Kiely rode on these roads before. This wasn't her first party here. She's experienced in the area. But I'm just thinking, like, that really doesn't matter in a way, if you're disoriented, or let's say she wasn't even drunk, but she felt off, like she just wanted to go home. She was tired. Maybe she had a stomach ache or, something like that. Like, there's other things that could have made her kind of lose sight of her sense of knowing where she was that night. You know what I mean? Like, it's just very dark. It's very, she's only 16 years old, even though she drove on those roads by her house that they're talking about. And, she snowmobiles. To me, that doesn't really mean that she couldn't have gotten lost. But in the same breath, it doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't have gotten lost either, And talking about, her car being in the water and it going underneath, the physics and her body being in the back seat, it just seems typical. And from what people have talked to me about who follow Adventures with Purpose closer than I do. Again, I know their work, I respect it, but I just haven't watched them as closely throughout their years on YouTube. You know what I mean? But other people have, and I love your guys' opinions and commentary. You know, if you watch this on replay, thank you, and comment down below your thoughts. This is where I pull some of my information out of, and a lot of you guys are saying that they're telling everybody that it's kind of normal, you know, for sadly them to be in the back seat. So that, to me, I've kind of been like, okay, so that's not anything red flaggish, you know, or maybe it's not red flaggish. It's just the physics of the body underwater. It floats through the back because obviously the engine will pull it down in the front. So that is another thing that I've kind of like ironed out and been like, okay, maybe it's not as shocking that she was in the back seat. Allison brought up a good point too. Excuse me, I'm just going to sip some coffee real quick. The moonlight that night. It's not the same moon that this woman is seeing, because obviously the phasing of the moon changes nightly. And by the time this woman is recording, it's what, 2.5 weeks later than Kiely's road trip. So she, you know, the night that this happened, apparently Kiely's moon was 3/4 full. It was 5 to 6 nights away from a full moon, to kind of give you an idea of like what kind of illumination it was possibly giving. Now it would be great if we can get somebody to do a video just like this in the 3/4 moon phase that, you know, it was for Kiely. But at the same time, we don't know the cloud coverage the night Kiely's trip was. We don't know if maybe a passing cloud covered the moon. I mean, there's a lot of things that we just don't know as far as the variables of that night. The other thing I want to know is, what was the fog like? Like, was there fog and mist? You know, it's just a lot of questions. People are saying that dust blows up when you drive on those tracks, so you're fighting off, you know, visibility with the dust too. Just some stuff to think about.
That grove of trees is to the left here. No, it's to the right. Okay. So this is a little dirt road right here. I'm just going to get back on the road.
No, we don't know if a seatbelt was used or not yet, Peach.
But I did want to show you. See this little group of pine trees here? Now, if I come at it, make sure there's no tree stumps here. I'm in a Jeep, so hopefully I shouldn't get stuck. But looking at the videos from when Sammy was being interviewed, I don't know, I'll come around from the other side. I'm gonna show you that small group of pine trees, and then it might help you get a better idea of where I'm at. But right here, I mean, it's completely open. There were some signs of, you know, 3 or 4 bonfires that were on the ground, lots of broken glass and things. But, you know, I'm turning my Jeep around in this big open space. But so here's those smaller pine trees that you may have seen, you know, in an interview with Sammy where she was kind of pointing out where some things were happening. I believe she said Kiely's car was either parked there or right here in this group of trees. But I did want to show you, I'm going to turn my lights off and you can see how dark it is out here, okay? So I think the only light you're seeing now is just a reflection in my car from my dash light, but it's pretty pitch black out there. All right. All right, so the road that they would have taken to exit out of the party location would have been here, and it is a dirt road, only enough room for a single vehicle. You know, pretty bumpy, hilly. There's no way you would have been able to navigate this if you didn't have headlights on. I'll turn them off again and you can see clearly how black it is, how dark it is. I mean, I can't see anything. I can't even see the tree, you know, I can't see anything. All right, so we're gonna make our way down to the road. But yeah, as you can see, there's no way that anybody could pass. also, if you would have, you know, veered off the road here, somebody would have definitely found you, because, you know, there's not a steep incline or a cliff near us on either side. There's a lot of sagebrush, some pine trees, you know, of all different sizes, but you would have definitely been found. So many people were wondering about that, like maybe she, you know, I mean, it's already known now where she was found, but, you know, before, when people were speculating. But the road is pretty bumpy, you know. Making our way through here. But yeah, someone, if they just left alone, you know, and everybody else was back there, their lights would have been the only ones out here, you know. And I'll show you in just a little bit the way that she must have gone. And, you know, unless someone was just directly behind her in the car in another vehicle, they wouldn't have known she would have turned right. Because there's no way you would have seen a car going that way. But there has been several cars, you know, out here driving around in the dark. I've seen, you know, headlights here and there, but you kind of just think they're coming out here to, you know, do whatever. So that may have been the case. Maybe somebody did see her, but they thought she was just, you know, All right, so at the end of this dirt road, it actually ends in like a Y. So there'll be a spot where you'll have to either go right or left. And that's it. Straight ahead is like a little hiking area. I did that on Saturday, but there's no other signs or anything. Okay, so here's where you come to the T in the road. Now, if you go left, that goes out to the main campground road. That is a paved road up a ways. And then to the right is the way to the water. So this is the way that she must have went that night. Now, this road is unpaved as well. It's just a dirt road. It is a bit wider. There are some more, you know, bigger hills and crevices here. Definitely I would not want to drive this in a regular vehicle. Hopefully it'll show on the camera, but a little bit, there's quite a big bumps, but this is most likely the road that she came down. Okay, so up here.
So my thing is, if she's familiar with this area, according to the PI who's spoken with the family, she's been there before, she's driven around it before, these ruts and like kind of like dips and potholes and stuff, like wouldn't she have kind of realized like, oh wait, this isn't the right way, or this isn't the road that I take to get out, you know, like stuff like that would kind of like, you would think indicate to her like, oh wait, no, this isn't the road. But we don't know her state of mind, you know, there's like a lot of things, but and then I have somebody, Open Minds, one of my loyal subscribers, commented the other day and said, I just don't think that Kiely, and again, this is just an opinion, I just don't think Kiely would have decided to keep driving feeling that way, because like if she was drunk or whatever, under the influence of whatever, because she had such an open relationship, it seemed, with her mother. Like, why wouldn't she have just called her mother for a ride and said, I'm not going to make it tonight? You know what I mean? And it's like, as much as we want to believe, like theoretically, like, yes, it seemed like they had an open communication line. Why would she decide to drive? You know, I guess we just don't know. Maybe she thought like, you know what? No, I can make it. But I just thought that was a good point. You know, she seems to have an open communication line with her mother, and she did that night, you know, just an hour beforehand. And, you know, she ends up deciding to still drive. I mean, yeah, it's definitely possible, guys. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just, you know, watching this, and if it's true that she's, you know, been there before, like you would think that she would, even though the roads are dark and they all look the same, maybe certain aspects you would think that she would recognize, like, oh wait, this isn't the way. But again, I'm just theorizing too.
Here you'll see a tree, and so it also comes to a T right here, so you have to make the choice to go right or left. Now both Another big hole here. All right, so here's the tree. Now, if you go to the right, there's water that way as well. To the right, that's where the water kind of leads around to the other side of the campground. Now the water, it's not really close to the sanctuary area that they were. It's more shallow, but there is water over there. And this is the way that she would have gone. Now this way is, I don't know if you can see, but maybe I'll try to go down. This is a Jeep, so I can take it, but it's like very crevassy, bumpy. Of course, her Honda would be able to make it, but it's definitely not a smooth, flat road. You're gonna feel, you know, the bumps, especially if you're going really fast.
And I mean, most people who are under the influence driving, you know, sometimes they don't remember how they got home. So it's totally possible that she's driving through this and kind of just, I mean, I'm not saying that she was blackout drunk, but if we have to just play in every scenario and variable, I mean, I'm saying, why didn't she realize this wasn't the road with all these jumps and all that? But at the same time, we don't know what state of mind she was in. Let me just say good morning to some people who joined while we finish this little clip up. Good morning, Brookie. Thank you for being here. Jen Lou, good morning. It's good to see you. And everyone else who has joined. Juggler said, if she was that wasted, would she have remembered to text her mom and spell everything correctly? And that is a good point too, because, you know, according to her mother, she got that text from her at 11:30. Nothing, according to the mother, seemed out of character. Like she didn't think that it was somebody else using her phone. Like it just wasn't, she's never indicated to us that it was misspelled and ramble jumbled, you know? That always sticks out to me as well. That, and at 10:30, the ex-boyfriend saying, don't do anything stupid. Those things have just stood out in my head. Like, you know, she had no problem texting her mom, which I don't understand either. 11:30, she, you know, wants to stay later, but by midnight, Elsa, one of the eyewitnesses, is saying that she'd seen her and Kiely was saying she wanted to go home. Like, why would you ask to stay later? And then 30 minutes later, people are saying that they heard her saying she wanted to go home. Like, I'm just confused by that too, but.
You know, kind of turns a little bit here to the left, but this is heading towards the area where she was found. I'll turn my lights off real quick. You can see how dark it is if you didn't have them.
And that's 100% true, Jen. She said, you would be amazed at what teens don't tell their moms, even with an open relationship. Yeah, I agree. And you know, if I just don't know the events that was taking place that night. Was she upset about something else? You know what I mean? And she just wanted to get out of there and get home. And it wasn't like a situation where she was too drunk, but it was a situation where she was just upset. And that's why she didn't call her mom. And then, you know, she's just not in the right state of mind because she's upset about something and didn't see the lake, you know, that there's just so many things. Good morning, Mandy. She said, hi, maybe there was something going on in her head. Oh my gosh, you just literally, you just read my mind. Like, I don't know, like, what was going on with Jagger, you know, their communication line. I find it interesting too, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, because the digital forensic footprint will be huge in this case. Like, what was on Kiely's phone? Who was she communicating with right before? Good morning, allegedly, with Brittany. Him dropping off at 10:30 from talking to her, to me, like, yes, he's the ex-boyfriend, but I'm kind of like, I wonder if, like, she tried to Snapchat him again, or, you know, was there any other way that she was trying to communicate with Jagger even, you know, like, what was going on that night? Good morning, Scott. Good to see you.
So this is the spot she would have gone down. I'm on a slight incline, not too much. Like, my foot right now is not on the gas, but it is rolling down. There's a few little, like, hilly bumps here. But, you know, from all the pictures you've seen it.
Exactly, Peach. I wouldn't say it's uncommon to drive into the water, but we don't know what happened. There are so many cases where people have had a lot on their minds, like divorce, and they weren't concentrating, and boom, drove into the lake. Yeah. And that's the other thing. It's like her saying to people that she wanted to go home. It's like, was it because she was tired? Was she not feeling well? Was she just, just wanting to get home? Or was there some drama that was going on and she's just wanting to get out of there? Like, what exactly was going on?
Everything of the rescue vehicles and, authorities. This is the spot they were at. I will walk down to the water's edge so you can see. But yeah, I mean, I can't tell that is water. I know it's water because I've been here, but I can't tell that there's water past this portion of this hill here with this.
And that is just so eerie. She can't tell that that's water. We can't tell that that's water. She says, I know that it's water because I've been here during the day. And that's the thing is, so did Kiely or no? Because this woman is out of, the kindness of her heart and her free time did this for us, and I love it. I appreciate it. She knows that that's water because she's been there before. Isn't that sort of the same though with Kiely? Like she'd been there before allegedly, and she knows that there's water all around. I don't know. I just can't help but kind of play a little devil's advocate. Like, yeah, you can't tell that that's water. That's 100% true. But she's stopping this woman with the camera because she knows it is. She's been there before, but so did Kiely, so I don't know. I guess, and that's the thing is, like I was saying earlier, the toxicology, if it comes back that she had, alcohol and whatever else in her system, that doesn't mean that she wasn't in the passenger seat or the back seat. But I guess, like I was saying, the black box will determine more of an indicator, I guess, of what was going on with the car in the car. I don't know. I really, everyone thought when this started, before she was found, she's in the lake. Everyone thought it, but her friend Sammy, who was telling everybody, social media, she was on mainstream media, news outlets, telling everybody that she thinks in her heart that she got taken and she's abducted.
Small sagebrush. I mean, there's no path here, no road, but it's a dirt that you can definitely drive over, but I can't tell that there's water beyond this. I can't tell at all. Now, I don't know how close I could get to the edge before I would even be able to see. I'll go down a little bit more, but you can see down there the little memorial set up for her. Somebody I'll take you down there so you can see it. Okay, so we'll go down there. I'll probably leave my headlights on just because it'll help us, but help me see. All right, so you can see there's a slight incline. It doesn't seem as big when you're walking it, but if you were driving, driving down, even if your foot wasn't on the gas, I could see where, you could get going pretty fast and hit the water. These are some of the tire tracks.
So then I just have the clip of it during the day. I figured I'd talk to you guys through chat while that plays and through my notes while this one plays when this is the day path. So let me read some comments. Allison said, no way you could start her car after being in water for 2 weeks. The back window had to be down when she entered the water. Yeah, that I showed a picture of that earlier. The back window, what that would have done, at first, it's not as if the car goes right under water. It would have sunk, nose dived first, the weight of the engine. The back, it filling with water. We don't know. I mean, it's pitch black out. I don't know how long her headlights were on for, what she could have seen, maybe getting out if she tried. That actually is part of the science that we'll be needing too, because, when they go to the medical examiner's office, which they've already brought her body there and done the autopsy, they'll be looking for, blunt force trauma injuries, shoulder check area, or the shoulder and chest area they'll check. That's going to determine, was the seatbelt tightened on her, you know what I mean? And the medical examiner can tell if these injuries were post-death or after, you know what I mean? So did the seatbelt leave bruises on her? Or I have to go down the path of, you know, because we know that there were fights at the party. Are they going to be looking for maybe indications that there was a fight and she's got scrapes and whatever from that? They'll know if that was from the accident or before she even got in the car, possibly. You know what I mean? Was there bruising around her lap from the seatbelt? Is there evidence that she was pounding on her window, the driver's side window, to get out? You know what I mean? There'll be, you know, bruises on her knuckles or scrapes on her knuckles or anywhere on her hands to kind of show that she was, it's so horrific to even visualize or think about, but like pounding on the window to get out of there. You know, that's going to be looked at. They're going to look to see if she has broken nails from doing that. They would be checking, you know, everywhere on her hands for bruising and signs that she tried to get out. But if the back window is open, you know, maybe she just panicked and forgot that it was open, you know what I mean? Or I don't know. It's hard to say. We already talked about how the autopsy would look immediately, if not the first thing, to see if there's water in her lungs. You know, obviously you don't have water fill your lungs if you're already passed. It will know if she was dead or alive because people have speculated she OD'd and somebody put her in there. We'll know that by the autopsy. They'll be able to tell that. In my opinion, because people have speculated that the car was put there after the first search. In my opinion, I think that's very unlikely. I think that car has been there the whole time. Unfortunately, law enforcement didn't see it. They made a mistake. They don't have the advanced sonar training that AWP does. I mean, it makes sense. You know, AWP, their specialty, they provide a service that's 100% like, I mean, it's not easy. Actually, Florida Bass Fishing does scuba diving, and, you know, it's a technique, it's a skill. So I don't fault law enforcement 100% for not finding them. I understand the frustration, and I understand why the family might have been frustrated, and it's just unfortunate that they didn't find them, but thank God AWP did, you know what I mean? And they can provide that service to law enforcement agencies all over, and maybe they can even train or help train them, you know? So again, it's hard to get over Sammy's statements about her being so stuck on her being abducted. But, you know, I guess I could chalk it up to she was theorizing like all of us. You know what I mean? Don't know. Let me read through what else. Looks like we've covered a lot, guys. Yeah. It looks like we've covered like all my notes on the science that we're going to be waiting on, you know, the phone data, forensic digital footprint, obviously the autopsy, black box in the vehicle, all that's going to be 100% important. Let me look through chat. How do we know if mom of what I do know, if I was a mom of Kiely, I would want every single answer. Exactly. Like, I want to know, you know, her friends that were with her that night, where exactly were their phones pinging the time that my daughter was in the water? You know what I mean? Like, we've just on my thumbnail, friends don't let friends drive drunk. And everyone knows that slogan. Everyone's heard it. But at the same time, it's like a different meaning in this case, because I don't believe Sammy was ever a friend. So what could that lead to in a way? Like, if there was a situation, you know, would she be trying to get away and not get in trouble for something that happened? I don't know. I mean, it's happened before. People have left people who are overdosing, just left them because they wanted to save their own butts. So these things unfortunately happen. Scott says it's not really allegedly SF Investigate relayed that her grandfather said he knew the area, or she knew the area extremely well and has been in the parties at that location. Yeah, we read that Twitter thing where he was saying that. Yeah, he did. He said that he confirmed it with the family, that she's driven there before and she's familiar with it. So that 100% is noteworthy for sure.
Florida said, right, cars don't sink instantly. As the rate of speed on the gravel road, there would have been plenty of time to exit the vehicle. I think so too, especially knowing that the airbags didn't go off. It wasn't like it was like, boom, like she was knocked out. I mean, maybe she got knocked out from the impact, but, you know, with the airbags not going off, I just don't foresee that. I'm just reading through chat, guys.
Group of pine trees.
I found some of the other information from Duty Ron's live stream yesterday interesting too. I can actually play some of the audio clips I screen recorded. Queenie B, we don't know if the headlights were on yet. The black box will let them know. The computer of the car will let them know if that was the case. Oh, wow, Max, that's crazy. They said I lost a coworker that drove in a canal. She was going 40 miles per hour. It's so sad. I mean, it definitely happens. And, you know, accidents without the water happen all the time with alcohol and other things involved. Law enforcement has the same GPS, the same technology as Ventures with Purpose. They should have found the car on sonar. I agree that they should have. I've heard, I mean, I listened to Ed Wallace's opinion on it, and, you know, I kind of am feeling the same, and it kind of makes sense. Like, they just don't use this technology and technique every day, unfortunately, and they're just not as good as AWP. I mean, it's unfortunate. Maybe this will kind of wake up law enforcement agencies to kind of retrain or get sharper at these things. You know, because there's so many cases where people go, you know, years and years without finding their loved ones, and then AWP finds them. It's like, how is this happening? Yep, that's true, Rebecca. Kiely's skin will slip underwater. No, we don't know why the airbags didn't deploy. Hi, John. Good morning. It's good to see you. And if you guys haven't hit that like button, please hit that like and subscribe as well. There is a bell too that will notify you of future live streams. So just click that bell. Brookie said, when and where did Elsa come in? Has anyone seen her? Okay, so Brookie, that was something that I uncovered very early on. I think in my first live stream for this case, all I did was go through the local news articles on this case, and it was found in a local Reno news station, and they had the timeline put out there, and yeah, it said Elsa, and it gave her last name, starts with a P, said that they saw her at around midnight. So I went on to Facebook and I typed in Elsa and her last name, and sure enough, she pops up and says Truckee, California, and it had pictures of her in a cap and gown. She just graduated as well. So she's a real girl. She was a real graduate of, you know, this year. And she, yeah, she told so then I tell Amanda S. Vita, because I don't know if you guys follow her channel, but it's really good true crime web sleuth channel. And she gets a hold of Elsa on, I want to say Instagram or Snapchat or something. She comments and said, did you see Kiely around midnight or whatever? And Elsa said, how do you know that? Yeah, I told a news station that I did, or something like that. And Amanda asked another question. I can't remember what, but she didn't respond. But yeah, she's a real girl. She made the statement that she'd seen her, and a lot of people missed it. And I was trying to bring everyone's attention to it, because everyone was like, maybe Kiely wasn't even there. And I was like, hello, Elsa, she saw her there, and this is Elsa. And I try to explain it, but it's, you know, it's hard when I'm a smaller channel and I can't get my voice out there, and everyone else is saying like, she wasn't even at this party. We don't know if she was there. It's like, it was right there in the news. Like, if you look, anyways, everyone does really good coverage. I'm not bashing anybody, but I was just trying to bring it to everyone's attention. Like, no, she was seen around midnight. And then finally people were like, oh, wait, yeah, she was seen around midnight. And I'm like, okay. Superhero says, FYI, to those who don't know, Kiely didn't even go to school with these people. She was homeschooled via a charter school. Right. So these people weren't, close to her. Is Amanda in here? I've seen people saying hi to her. Hi, Amanda, if you're here. I'm scrolling down through chat. I'm behind a bit. Yeah, her account is set private in her picture. But she's a real person. Just looking through chat, guys. But it's odd. Sammy spoke out, but not once her just saying it speaks. I just can't get over some of the statements that were said by Sammy, There's just, and I've played some of the red flag statements on my video or on my channel. Kiely's mom was friends with some of these kids' parents. And I'd seen earlier somebody said, will they release the toxicology or the autopsy or whatever? And people were saying that the mother was going to keep it private. I think that if it has to come out, then it will come out, like as far as like wherever this goes, like as far as investigation. But yeah, I have heard that the family will keep that private. I don't know if that'll end up happening. Actually, let me play these clips. And I'm going to link the channel and videos in my description box for Duty Ron. And if you guys want to watch the whole live streams, they're very interesting. I like to watch them and kind of screen record things that kind of stand out to me. So let me just play for you guys some of those. And I'll just check back with chat. And it's pretty much everything I have to say. We're going to follow the science, obviously. We need the autopsy. We need the black box and, the cell phone digital footprint. All that is going to be 100% key. I'm having a hard time getting over some of the things Sammy said and did. Just the fact that she left her there to begin with kind of shows her character to me, but I guess we can't really go after her for being a bad person, you know what I mean? Without proof that something nefarious happened. But I'm not saying that something didn't happen, but I am saying, I guess, it's just a waiting game. And all we have to do is just wait for the science to come back. I'm going to pour myself some more coffee while you listen to this little clip. Okay. And these are just little screen recordings that I've taken of Duty Ron and Ed Wallace, who are retired law enforcement, New York PD, first grade detectives, at least Ed is. And I know that Duty Ron is too.
Because until this is deemed not to be a criminal investigation, it is in the police, in our minds as investigators, it's a criminal and an active investigation until we can prove it's not. So once and for all, when that does finally happen, there you may or may not hear more details about it. But at the end of the day, it's important that they get to the bottom of it. And there's question, Ed, and rightfully so. How can we trust the local authorities there when they missed her in the water? You want to just talk a little bit about that? I feel that that's a little over the top.
So I ended the screen recording there, but pretty much Ed just goes on to say that he doesn't want to bash law enforcement because he's made mistakes too. Unfortunately, it does happen. And he just kind of went on to say that AWP is the best in what they do. And, it was just like a skill set that they were more superior in. And, things like that unfortunately happen where law enforcement misses things. But at the same time, in the same stream, they talked about corruption and how that absolutely takes place in counties and areas and cases. So, it's just, it's unfortunate, but I mean, at least she was found, you know. Let's just be thankful that they found her. Allegedly, with Brittany said, I 100% agree. The things Sammy said, I have a hard time letting go. Yeah. And you know what? If it's circumstantial evidence or if it's just us feeling like it's sketchy, then that's what it is. I guess it could be explained, you know. I'm not saying I'm going to believe her excuse or explanation of the things she said. It's just kind of weird, but all right. You know, I guess you thought your friend was abducted. Everyone else in the world thought she was in the water. Okay.
Know what the
How long do you think the tox report will come back on this Kiely Rodni? It's California, state of California. They got a pretty decent crime lab there. What are your thoughts on the time frame? They said 4 to 6 weeks.
I heard the parents are objecting to any of that information being released. I don't know what the California law is on that. If they have standing, I don't know, but we may never get it.
If it's a criminal investigation and somebody is brought to justice on this, we'll see that at a trial, obviously.
If there is a criminal investigation here, but if it turns out to be, like, remember the cause and manner of death, right? And it could be accidental, all right? And in this case, if there are drugs and alcohol involved, there's a high probability of it being accidental.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if they find foul play, that's another story.
That's a whole other story. And when we get to that, we will have that conversation. All right. Kathy Corbett has been gifted a membership by Ed Wallace and Duty Ron.
So I thought that was interesting. And again, the only person, and good morning, Honeybee. Thanks for being here. And thank you, Leave It to Beaver. I really appreciate that compliment. She said, ATS, thank you for being rational. I cannot hardly watch anybody lately. I'm just grateful you are fair and logical. Thank you. I try. And again, I'm open-minded and I appreciate all angles and opinions. And so, feel free, those who are watching replay, let me know your thoughts. I'll read them, of course. So, I was going to say the only person who mentioned that this, which we talked about in the last live stream, that this was a criminal investigation was the PI. He said that it was being treated as a criminal investigation to be safe and that they were going to handle it that way. But that hasn't been said by law enforcement to the media. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that, the same way that Ed Wallace was saying, if it's a criminal investigation, we've only heard that from the PI, I believe. They are treating it, as far as I know, like a vehicular accident. But at the same time, FBI, as we know, is supplementing resources if they need it. I think I have one more voice clip, and then I got to get going, guys. Got to grab the little one out of the crib. She's just playing in there right now. I'm looking at the baby monitor. She's got books and all that, but, got to get her breakfast ready. And we've been going for over an hour. So let me just find this clip. 1 second, guys. And just like they were saying in the last clip, the family might want to make this a private matter and not let anybody in on it as far as the toxicology and all that. But if it's deemed criminal and, it proceeds in that direction, then everything would end up coming out, in a trial or whatnot. And again, that's just hypothetical. That's just saying, if it goes in that direction. So
that point when they are, when they release her remains back over. And Ed, because everyone's curious, how long would that process take?
It's tough to say, depending on, I don't know.
At what point will they release? When everything is complete?
No. If they took their samples for, tox, they probably could release it. They have a preliminary cause and manner. of death, you know, and it's non, you know, homicide, they probably could release.
So time will tell. Leave It to Beaver said, hey, that first video you were showing, do you have a link for it? That man's channel. Duty Ron? Are we talking about Duty Ron? Let me actually add the links to the stuff in my description box right now on the live stream with you guys. And then anyone watching it on replay, feel free to check out the links in the description box. And then whatever comments you guys want to express in the comment set or in the chat right now, go ahead while I link this, and then I'll refer back to chat, and then we'll just close things out. So let me. And from, I don't know if you guys know Police Off the Cuff. It's another retired law enforcement channel, which I highly recommend. They did a live stream last night about this case also, and they're under the impression that it's just a horrific vehicle accident, nobody else involved. You know, if we're going to go with likelihood and what makes sense as far as, you know, statistics, yeah, it could definitely be just she was by herself. This was a terrible accident. Hi, Marshall Dove. Good to see you. That doesn't really explain to me the things that Sammy was saying, though, you know? So I just get kind of like, I'll go down the path of like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, she was in the water. We kind of knew she was in the water. We predicted it. How sad, how terrible. But then I just got these like red flags going off in the back of my head that are like, but what about the friend's statements? And it's like, okay, it's hard, guys. I don't understand Sammy. That's all. And somebody said a comment about her being book smart, but that doesn't mean that she couldn't have. Oh, the one of the fingerprints. Yes, yes. Oh, you know what? Let me include that channel too in my description box. That was, let me check. The channel is Michael McCutcheon, and I'll link it right now in the description box, and you guys definitely check him out. He's a cop as well. He does a lot of forensic experiments and just lays out, you know, everything that they do in a forensic lab on YouTube. So it's just really interesting, actually. And he only had like 7,000 subs. Like, go subscribe to him, guys. He's got good information. And I thought that video with the fingerprint pulling was interesting. So I'm glad you guys liked it too. But yeah, so let me finish up linking these. Yep, they're both in the description box. So please, you know, refer to those channels if you want as well. But anyway, so somebody had said something about her being book smart doesn't mean that she wouldn't drive drunk. And I 100% agree with that. Like oh, hi, Mike. Good to see you. I'm just scrolling through chat and reading the comments. I've known really, really smart guys and girls. And one of my exes was just super smart, but he had zero like social, I don't know. It was just like he would go with the flow or the crowd. Like he was a follower pretty much, and would get into situations, bad situations, all because he didn't stand up and say like, no, I'm not doing this, guys. This is stupid. So I 100% agree that like a grade, you know, your intelligence level has nothing to do with your common sense. Thank you, Mel Mac, for helping me find the words. Yeah, I agree there that, you know. So, yeah, we got documents in those other cases. Those are going to trial, you know. So that's why we got that information from those minors in those cases, like the Gannon Stouch and Kiely Anthony. Rest in peace to both of them. And again, we send our condolences and thoughts and prayers to Kiely's family. We obviously know that this is a difficult time for them. And I believe based on what the PI said, that they are uncertain in their own theory of what they think happened. So they're kind of playing around with, was this an accident? Was it not? You know, and hopefully they get the answers that they need. And I agree, Jenny, that's a, you know, good note to leave it on. Any mom that thinks their teen tells them everything is wrong. I agree, sadly. But, you know, they're growing into their own person and they want to handle things themselves. Maybe she didn't call for a ride because she just thought she had it under control, you know? Time will tell. Time will tell. So I don't know, guys. That's pretty much it. I really appreciate you guys listening to me this morning and going over things. Thank you so much for being here, and we will be speaking very soon. I think the next live stream that I want to do will be on Dylan Round's case. We have a lot to discuss there as well, and I'm still following it. So, you know, I've got a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but I'm always kind of researching and looking things to bring to your guys' attention and discuss with you guys. So thank you so much. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Comment down below if you're on replay, and we will talk soon. And you guys enjoy your week, and bye.